All right, so this is lesson 94, the second missionary journey, and this is part two. We are going to be reading the Bible from Acts chapter 17, and we're going to start at verse 1. So if you remember, uh, Paul was in Philippi and entered into the house of Lydia, and after being beaten, and again comforted the people there, and then we read they departed in verse 40 of chapter 16. So chapter 17 verse 1. Now when they had passed through Amphipolis and Apollonia, they came to Thessalonica, where was a synagogue of the Jews. And Paul, as his manner was, went in unto them, and 3 Sabbath days reasoned with them out of the Scriptures, opening and alleging that Christ must needs have suffered and risen again from the dead, and that this Jesus whom I preach unto you is Christ. Some of them believed and consorted with Paul and Silas, and of the devout Greeks a great multitude, and of the chief women not a few. But the Jews which believed not, moved with envy, took unto them certain lewd fellows of the baser sort, and gathered a company, and set all the city on an uproar, and assaulted the house of Jason, and sought to bring them out to the people. And when they found them not, they drew Jason and certain brethren unto the rulers of the city, crying that these have turned the world upside down, are come hither also. Whom Jason hath received, these all do contrary to the decrees of Caesar, saying that there is another king, one Jesus. And they troubled the people and the rulers of the city when they heard these things, and when they had taken security of Jason and the other, they let them go. And the brethren immediately sent away Paul and Silas by night unto Berea, whose coming thither went into the synagogue of the Jews. So let's go over that there. So they come into Thessalonica. For 3 Sabbath days, Paul preaches in the synagogue there. That's longer than we see in some situations. And while he's there, many believe. There are those who are converted. Okay? But again, we see most of them are devout Greeks and chief women. It may be that some of them were Greeks who had began to live like Jews, proselytes. But either way, many were converted here. But yet there are probably a larger number in the city who are Jews in this synagogue which did not believe. And they become very envious. We see that sin there, the sin of pride. They begin to be envious of the attention that Paul is getting. And so they're going to stir up some trouble so that they can try to get rid of this Paul. So the way they do that is they find these gentlemen, or they're called lewd, and of the baser sort. These are men who sin, who their sins are so blasphemous, so heinous. Everyone knows about them, and they are not afraid of being known for their sins. So that basically they have no inhibitions. They will do whatever they are told, whatever sin it may be. They don't care if the price is right. And so it's more than likely that these Jews hired these men and told them, all right, we are going to have you go through the city and create some type of uproar so that the city becomes distressed, and leaders must do something about the uproar, and we want the uproar to be blamed on Paul and his preaching. So these men begin, you can imagine them probably running through the streets, breaking things, knocking things over, and gathering more and more momentum. And as the mob goes past a house, unfortunately what we see is mob mentality. Probably many other join in the mob only for fun or because they don't quite know what's going on, but want to go along with the mob, and it begins to grow and grow. So these lewd fellows who are sinful and wicked, they're the ones who cause the trouble, not Paul. But anyways, now that the city's in an uproar, the leaders of the city are not happy about that. And they realize that they could get in trouble with the Romans. The Romans may send in some to try to control the city. They don't want that. So they bring in and find out what's going on. The people accuse Paul of having turned the city upside down because he preaches that Jesus is a king. And of course, that would not be okay with Caesar.